in our destiny, we solemnly declare. Side by side we stand, islands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our
Heavenly Father, we come before you at the start of this new day, giving thanks for life, for health, and the opportunity to serve through this station. We ask for your divine presence to guide us in all we do. Bless this broadcast, that it may be a source of inspiration, joy, and unity to all who tune in. Whether near or far, may our words uplift, our music heal, and our message bring light to those who need it most. We pray for our listeners, wherever they may be. Grant them strength for the day ahead, peace in their hearts, and success in all they put their hands to. Cover those traveling with your protection, and those at home with your comfort and provision. Lord, may everything we do bring honor to you and be a blessing to others. Guide our steps, bless our efforts, and let this station be a vessel of positivity and hope. In your name we pray. Amen.
Your voice, your soundtrack, your station. New Era TT Radio. Connect.
Always in the home, while she was fun, went outside and roam. Since the beginning of time, we standing in line, taking we grind, following behind. Now we woman have changed we course, without remorse. Woman is boss. When it comes to caring, sharing and achieving, woman is boss. Century saw a change. Now man find woman acting strange. We no longer depend on man to earn a living. No, we going outside and earning we own shilling. Cause we woman have changed we course, without remorse. Woman is boss. When it comes to quality, production and dignity, woman is boss. Who's the boss? Who's the boss? Who's the boss? Woman's role we know as a miracle maker, wife, mother, teacher, etc. with the ability to combine all of these roles. When you must agree, it's a woman's world. But we women have changed because without remorse, no man is boss. When it comes to substance, advantage for farmer, woman is boss.
Wake up, rise up. It's the Net Radio Breakfast Show, bringing you the energy, music, and vibes to start your day right.
Who's the boss? Who's the boss?
Good question there. Who's the boss?
Who's the boss?
Well, I'll tell you who's the
Who's the
boss.
boss?
New Era TT Radio. We are the bosses.
Who's the
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Trinidad. Good morning, Tobago.
Who's the boss?
Neighbors in the Caribbean, friends who are streaming all around the globe. Good day to you, and thank you so much for making us your choice each and every day.
Who's the boss?
Let me say much thanks to the Heavenly Father for bringing us together for another day. Everything that we do, dear God, let it be a blessing unto you. Sir Charles, yes, that is me.
Who's the boss?
And of course, together with the team,
Who's the boss?
this is your Get Up and Go. It's the Breakfast Show.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Wake up, it's a brand new dawn. The Breakfast Show got the vibes turned on. From Maracas Bay to the Savannah line. Let's start the day in Caribbean prime. Oh, good vibes rolling through the air. The Breakfast Show energy everywhere. We talk, we laugh, we make you think. Grab your doubles or your morning drink.
Ooh, that song always wakes me up.
It does. It does.
If it
It
is that I feel a little, early morning, because sometimes your morning just starts a little lethargic. It gets me into the mood to say, okay, it's the Breakfast Show.
Yeah,
So good morning to our listeners and viewers wherever you are across the planet, and of course to those of you in the Caribbean and in Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, a special good morning to my co-hosts, Wendell, Stephen, and Sir Charles. And welcome to the Breakfast Show on this first day of May 2025. We are on our way to summer or August holidays, depending on whichever one you want to choose, you choose. But we are, from the time you hit May, you're zooming towards it, that vacation period. But it's the 1st of May. It's also, I think it's a Labor Day. It's a Labor Day today across the world. Even though we celebrate Labor Day on June 19th.
June 19th, yes.
June 19th. But it is, there probably would be a May Day march today somewhere. I don't know if it's in Faizabad or something.
Faizabad.
Yeah. You remember when they actually did a maypole dance too? You ever did that in school growing up?
What's that?
Dance the maypole?
The maypole? What's a
Come
maypole?
on.
Like a pole with some
No, mine ribbons coming down.
Yeah. And he used to
What's a
go in,
maypole?
and
I'm
that's it.
sure he did that as a boy growing up.
Me?
Anyway, good morning to Charles. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Trinidad and
I grew up
Tobago.
any time of PlayStation,
And good morning, listeners and viewers all over the globe. It's an absolutely wonderful day. It's May 1st, 2025. And as Richard said, it is May Day. I'm sure the unions will be doing something somewhere, I'm sure. I think they always do. And the unions are in a really good mood these days. A really good mood because two of their representatives, of course, and leaders were elected members of parliament. Ernesta Kasa in Point 14 and Clyde Elder in Labre. Two people whom we know well,
Yeah, and we probably have them on the show at some point, actually, because we speak to the people. Of course, we're going to also eventually have some international guests coming in. So we get more international, especially for the Caribbean diaspora and maybe people in their areas.
Yes.
That we can speak. An interesting point that I never told you all. A couple of weeks ago, but I went to dinner with a friend of mine who was here from Canada. and another good friend who I hadn't seen in a while, and we went to dinner one night. And while we were at dinner, one of the guys who was there, his significant other is an artist, and that artist, Trinidad has several really acclaimed artists. There are people who don't know this, but do. And the artist had done a painting which was bought by a guy called, I think his name is David Cox, who's one of the wealthiest British people. But he was in Mustique. You know, Mustique is
the island that the rich British reside.
Yeah, the Mustique. So he was in Mustique and he wanted to meet the artist. So he asked if he could, because the artist lives in Trinidad and naturally. And he came across on his yacht, and they met him. And when they met him, who did he come with? But David Cameron, the former British Prime Minister. The former British Prime Minister was all over Port of Spain, going to different art galleries and stuff, and having lunch and just basically liming.
And nobody knew.
And nobody would have known. So Trinidad is a funny place like that.
Yes.
That, you just will not know who is here, especially coming through as yachties or coming in, or cruisers, sometimes as they prefer to be called. So you just never know who's here. Yeah. And the guy who I was talking to, he was telling me that they gifted them a bottle of puncheon and stuff like that. As one of the drinks of Trinidad and Tobago that's popular.
I've never had puncheon.
That's just an interesting side note.
Yeah.
I've
never ever had puncheon. At least knowingly had puncheon. I should say
I have had it in something else. Like sometimes people make puncher creme with puncheon in it.
Oh, well, I don't drink puncher creme at all.
Yeah, so you need to expand your horizon.
No, I don't like milk drinks, Richard. I don't like drinks with milk in it.
Anyway, but
I have enough milk in me already. I don't need any more.
So and I feel like the Pope there. I hope I'm not blaspheming. But so I've tasted it through that way, but straight puncheon, no, because I'm off a beer person,
right?
So I don't really drift. And maybe I might have cocktails, but I limit it to mojitos or the classic things like that.
Yes.
I'm not adventurous. You will never see me go to a bar and say, "Give me a Johnny Walker Blue and Coconut Water." No, I buy that for somebody.
Okay.
I'm not buying that for me. I will never be drinking scotch and stuff. But you know this.
You'll probably be buying that for me.
Yeah, probably. Or the closest I get to that is maybe Hennessy. Sometimes I just like Hennessy and ice, and that's it. But no, but
when I travel though, I experiment. I just tell them, whatever you have, let me try it. What's this special? Let me try it. Or because I've had beers from all over this world already, you know what I mean? So I like to try different things, you know what I mean? But I'm not. I don't get drunk. I have never gotten drunk in my life.
Well, I have been there. I mean, not often, but I've been there and I was not inconspicuous. I'd leave it at that.
We know some of the stories.
I will leave it at that. That's for another day, another time. But we could go to our good news. By the way, we have a packed show today.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, we have a packed show today on the breakfast show this morning because, of course, starting off at 6:30, we will have Robert Le Hunte weighing in on the results and, of course, the transition of power, etc., etc. So he'll speak to us for a bit at the 6:30 a.m. hour. We're still trying to do the poll. So it'll probably take him up to 6:50. And in the next hour, we have Penelope Beckles-Robinson, the newly appointed leader of the opposition, via the General Council meeting that took place yesterday, which was related to us by a very kind of somber-looking Foster Cummings. Somebody, he was kind of talking, and even though you're talking on a mic, I was almost like, what you saying?
But he had the camera right up in his face, though.
I know, but talk with some energy and purpose.
After that kind of defeat, you're talking about energy.
Yeah, because no, Sir Charles, that's part of politics.
No, what to be deceitful?
No, to expect defeat. And
when you're hurting deep down inside,
and if that's part of it.
Some people can't hide their emotions, Richard. Some people can't smile through pain,
Yeah. But it's not a matter about smiling through. You're giving a press conference, so give it a little bit more energy. This was just in my opinion. Because
I mean, when you walk with a community,
his tone was a little too flat.
Nurture that community, Richard, and that is a kind of leveler you feel inside the day.
You must feel affected, especially when you've done well as an MP1 and you've done well as a minister.
Wendell, then put Lorraine or somebody else to Laurel. Sorry, I said Lorraine. Laurel or somebody else to do it, because she was still feisty in a kind of way when she started the press conference. But he was a little too low key.
Yeah.
And that's not the image you want. You have to project the image of the PNM will be resilient about this, and we are ready to go as the best opposition ever. Yeah. And you have to project that.
Yeah.
At least that's my opinion.
No, I'm hearing you. I'm not
a strategist.
I'm not disagreeing with you, except for the part that clearly he would have been disappointed. Clearly he may still be recovering from the effects of what happened. So I kind of understood his kind of
also you noticed it too.
Yes, of course I noticed it. Because the camera, I don't know, zoomed up right on him too. I don't know why.
Well, I was just like, do it with a little bit more energy, Mr. Cummings. Because I'm like, because you're projecting information about the People's National Movement. Even though you have lost, don't look like you've lost.
Yeah, but he was pretty articulate in what he was saying.
Well, yes, but for example, for our news, we have to actually, I know the technical people told me that they had to bump up his volume in the news because there were clips that they used for the news segment, or they are using for the news segment, and they said they actually had to bump up technically his volume because it was too low.
Just the sight of Amanda and her voice will fix that.
Yeah. No, people still have to hear what you're saying. But anyway, I mean, it is what it is, and obviously he is still disappointed, which I get. Yeah. I just felt you could have been a little bit more robust in terms of it. But that's
as you mentioned, Amanda there, and this could probably be for good news. Amanda is getting some nice reviews,
Oh, great!
I would imagine.
Yeah, yes.
Well, thank you, Amanda, for being such a consummate professional. And also part of our good news too is that it's a historic moment in Trinidad and Tobago because we have never had a president, a prime minister, and leader of the opposition all be women at the same time.
Yes.
It's absolutely historic, and so it's a wonderful signal post in terms of women and their power in the society. So 3 of the most powerful positions in the country are now all manned by women.
You can't say manned by women.
Why can't? It's English language.
All controlled by women.
It's kind of funny,
All ruled by women.
Yeah.
You can't say
Controlled.
That's not good news. I'm too kind
Occupied.
Occupied by women.
I found this was a clever use of words.
Trinidad and Tobago. While there, I connected with a driver to whom I paid for his services to take me around the island. Baron, big personality, loud, expressive, smiles, laughter, and obviously a stallion. We're driving down from the beach. I was in the passenger seat eating a bake and shark sandwich, one of the best things I've ever had in my entire life. I was having the most intense orgasm eating the sandwich. Oh my God. Woo. This is so good. Baron, observing this dramatic scene, could not stop laughing. He turns to me and he says, I am going to have so much fun with you on this trip. The native of this land, the local, being entertained by the tourist? When we travel, we tend to travel for leisure rather than immersion, expecting the royal treatment in our all-inclusive resorts by contributing to the economy of the locals. But when was the last time we entertained them? When was the last time we gave them leisure, put them on a pedestal, restored their narrative? Barron felt seen, acknowledged, empowered as a Trinidadian man by observing my appreciation for his country. He was the star of my trip, a true Trini to the bone.
So that's one, celebrating Trinidad and Tobago. This was another one, which is kind of just because I felt I wanted to play it, I'm playing it.
His position, because we've been sold this idea of Trump as the master, the art of the deal. Only he can bring these nations to heel. It is all bullshit.
I'm telling you, these countries are calling us up, kissing my ass.
Trump told Time magazine that talks were underway and that Chinese President Xi Jinping had called him. China has shot back repeatedly, saying no, they are not talking.
The president said, I've made 200 deals. Time, you've made 200 deals? Trump, 100%.
100%? Bullshit. Here's how you know. 200 deals? There's only like 180 countries. Unless he's making a deal. It's true. You get. Unless he's making a deal with Trinidad and Tobago separately.
You got to love the American media, eh?
Oh, good. But Judge Jones is such a boss in terms of how he does that, does that show.
Somebody in the media here say that, oh gosh, the among the hateful, divisive comments will come his way. Because we can laugh at that. That is a man talking about the president of the United States, eh?
Yeah. But so that was our good news.
And you only get it on Net Radio, The Breakfast Show. It's exclusive. We have exclusive rights to that.
I'm just thinking, but they'll try and go through some of the greeting some of our callers this morning.
Let me do that.
Before we get into other stuff.
Suzanne Jessup again, she's first. Good morning to Charles, Richard, and Wendell. She sent quite a few messages. Brent Hackshaw, good morning, gentlemen. Slick Money Grip, good morning. Boy Bidesi, Melissa from Charfleur, Patricia Defoe, Rena Buru Jennings, Miguel Gonzalez, Ambrose Blah, Ingrid from Tucson, Arizona, Marlon Motley, Wayne Ramsey out there in Fort Lauderdale, Trinidad Margot, Sabita Bierse, a very good morning, guys. Mr. Robert Taylor from Fernandina Beach. Maureen Dilchan Maharaj also says good morning. Doreen Pierre, Lambert Bruce, Philomena Ali, look Philomena. Carol Guevara, Steph says good morning, guys. Sherwin Co also says good morning. Chris Tusa says morning, time to take a hint. Women running things from today. They've always been running things, actually. Trust me. And you should know that, Chris. Marcia Rock also says good morning. Celeste, Mrs. R says good morning. CJ from New York also says, what is you have Wendell? You have Wendell what? Keith Clark says good morning to the breakfast show. David Wares, lots of cocktail, use that as the alcohol vase. I'm not sure what David Wares means. Cheryl Johnson also says good morning. Champion of democracy, child of God. Good morning, gentlemen. Trini Gets Fit, Beauty Culture, Maria Cellier, Andre, and J97. Those are all the folks who have greeted us this morning, and we thank you for listening to us. We are extremely pleased to have you on clearly the best breakfast show. Let me also say good morning to Beefy Smith. If you remember, that was someone who used to message us from the previous show, Richard. I went in a hardware yesterday and I asked for something by the hardware and a man spin around. Wendell? I say, yeah. I say, yes. He said, well, I'm Beefy Smith. he's from Tobago, but he's here in Trinidad, you know, and he said, and I gave him how to find the show. So hopefully he is on this morning. So good morning, Beefy Smith.
All right, so good morning to all of the people watching us on the stream. And I know, Sir Charles, you always want to say a special good morning to certain people.
Yeah, so in GNC Auto, we want to say good morning to the auto security team. Also, the Suzanne is here on the WhatsApp also. And Archbishop Ashton Clark out there in Canada, good day to you. I hope everything went out well for you people out there in Canada also.
Okay, I just understood what Steph means by you have Wendell. Punch him. Clearly, I didn't drink it knowingly. And Philomena Ali also said you should try it. No, it's all right. It's all right.
All right. But you know, in the intro, I might as well do the headlines a little bit early because you should have Robert Le Hunte joining us shortly. And I want to get through the headlines. So I'll start with the Daily Express. Of course, these are the headlines of the 3 daily newspapers in Trinidad and Tobago, in case you're joining us for the first time and did not know. So let me start. The Daily Express for today. General Counsel picks Arima MP for top parliament post. Penny is PNM opposition leader. So that's the main headline. Let me just check something. Yeah. Penny is PNM opposition leader. Rowley resigns as political leader. Stewart steps down as chairman, and Sinanan gives up deputy post. All of that happened yesterday. It was just like a domino effect in a kind of way at a certain point in terms of the news coming out of Barry's house. So all of that is on the front page of the Daily Express, and of course there's a picture of a jubilant Penelope Beckles-Robinson, who we'll be speaking with in the next hour. The first interview, lengthy interview since her appointment as leader of the opposition, because we are the breakfast show.
Because we're from Arima too.
And then from Arima too. Arima finally gets something. We finally reach. On the back page, autonomy is key. Successful TPP Tobago West candidates priority. New MP makes plans. Ayana moves on. And let me get to the untimely setback. Legion suffer blow as James suspended for illegal bowling action. Pelicans narrowly edge in furloughs. Barca rally in 6-goal thriller against Inter. And that's it for the front and the back page of, back and inner pages of the Daily Express, because they put their sports in the inside now. Trinidad and Tobago Guardian for today. Front page. PNM picks Penny. Oh, that's alliteration. Thank you, Trinidad and Tobago Guardian. Arima MP chosen as opposition leader after Robbie Stewart and Sinanan quit party executive. Venezuela congratulates Kamala on election win. EBC recounting Sando West still incomplete.
Okay.
And on the back page, James banned from bowling. So that's the main sports story. And on the front page of the Newsday, PNM picks its first ever female opposition leader. 12 MPs back Penny. Rowley, Young, Sinanan resign, and Kamala to be sworn in as PM today. All of that is on the front page. On the back page, TFT on a roll in West Indies T20 Breakout League. Unbeaten Legions topple Titans, and Carifta star Sammy ready to take flight. So those are 3 daily newspapers. Of course, the number 1 story, it's all about the selection of the leader of the opposition by the People's National Movement.
What is missing from those stories, Richard, is the fact that Dr. Rowley, because he is officially resigned as of today, yesterday he was still holding the position of political leader. And he had, of course, PNM has 4 deputy political leaders. Rohan Sinanan is one, and he resigned. But he also revoked the appointment of the other 2. who is Dr. Nyan Gadsby-Dolly, and Colmin Bertie. Dr. Rowley revoked those appointments yesterday of the two other deputy political leaders, which, well, they should have resigned, but they didn't, and he revoked the appointments. The fourth one is, of course, Ansel Dennis, who took a pile at today in Tobago about he ain't taking no blame for the loss and how, based on the results, we would have won seats in the THA. I watched this on news last night. I said, is this man going mad? But let me... How you would say you're taking no blame?
If you're not taking any blame,
to me, that's the right thing to do. Step down.
Anyway, let me bring in Robert Le Hunte because he's our first interview for this morning, and I see him already backstage, so I'll bring him into studio. Good morning, Mr. Le Hunte.
Is he coming on?
Welcome to the breakfast show this morning. Bright and early, we have you up this morning.
Yes. Good morning, Richard. Good morning, Wendell. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And yes, you have the privilege of having me up very early.
Good morning, Mr. Le Hunte. Are you on the island?
No. I'm actually in New York.
Oh, okay.
But I'm on my way. I'm on my way home, so I'm getting closer. Coming from where I was, I consider this almost home.
All right. Well, let me tease you one time then. You're on your way home. We have 6 senators to appoint, opposition senators. Is that why you're coming home?
Well, boy, somebody whispered to me that you will be talking to our new opposition leader very soon. That's a question you should be asking her. You don't think so?
Well, I asked you before because we interviewed you first.
Oh God, no. I know of no such thing.
Okay, all right. So, what are your initial thoughts about the election and the results?
Well, boy, a little bit mixed thoughts, really. A little bit disappointed, but a little bit expecting it to some extent, hoping against hope. But some of the writings was on the wall, and therefore, I see it as something that, well, it is what it is. The result has happened. I think we all are a little bit surprised by the extent of the victory. But I think it's just a matter now of the PNM doing what they have to do. I think we moved in the right direction yesterday with the appointment of a new opposition leader. I have been one who have had some concerns before on the approach that we took in the installation of Mr. Young and the fact that we missed that golden opportunity to revitalize our base and our membership. And therefore, I think, we are seeing some of the effects of not doing that. And it is what it is, I want to take the opportunity also to congratulate the leader of the opposition. I think, from my understanding, she ran a fantastic campaign. She made a number of promises, and she was the Prime Minister-elect. Sorry, the Prime Minister. I congratulate her on a good campaign. It was smooth. It was very energized, and as I said, based on all feedback, I think she was able to touch the people in a way that the PNM was not able to do it.
Do you think that disaffection, because you have a lot of people analyzing the PNM's loss, and not only the PNM's loss, they didn't lose by a close margin, and more concerning, they lost 102,000 roughly votes in terms of people who would have voted for them in 2020. So it meant that a lot of people either did not vote, and I suspect that's what it is. They just did not vote. They did not feel motivated to vote, rather than transfer their vote to necessarily the UNC. You may have had some of that, but the vast majority obviously elected to not go out to the polls on Monday, and because we have an electorate of 53.9%, I think. The EBC has calculated it as in terms of who turned out to the polls on Monday. So a big portion of the electorate did not vote. Whether non-aligned or whoever did not vote. So what do you think a accounts for that? And so it's two questions. What do you think accounts for nearly 47% of the population not voting? And what do you think accounts for that loss of 102,000 votes for the PNM that they would have received in 2020?
Well, as I alluded to when I started, I think the PNM really went into this election, as I said, not energized for a number of reasons. I mean, one, you're running elections, so you're holding government for 10 years. You held government during a time when there was a lot of austerity measures. There was reduced revenue, and therefore the PNM was not able to deliver on a number of things that they would have liked to do. So that is one. Two, I think PNM, to an extent, their communication mechanisms, their ability to speak, and what they could have delivered to the people, they did not communicate, and they did not deliver what even some of the items that they could have done. And I think they did. That was two. Three, I think the party itself was not energized. I think there was a lot of concerns about the election of the leader and how the person came into being, right? And as I said, I felt they lost a great opportunity in the fact that he did not actually go out to the membership. He was able to express, and they could have used that as a good opportunity to explain to the membership exactly what was happening and make the membership feel, because those are the people that you need to go and pound the pavement for you, make the membership feel that they were important. And I think that also played a part, a big part in the fact of the membership not being motivated. And the membership basically, and for the leadership style of Dr. Rowley was one that is a little bit rough around the edges, if I would just use that phrase. And I think people felt, well, okay, you have been talking to us or talking down to us or shouting at us or whatever, and therefore this is my opportunity. As I said, I couldn't respond any time before, and now this is my response by just not coming out. So they weren't motivated to say, I am going to vote for the UNC, although some did, but they felt that they just needed not to come out. I mean, and my time on the campaign trail, when I was there basically right around the local government elections, and I was there again, in just in 2020, 22, 21. And I felt it in La Brea, it was very difficult to get people to come out then. And I gave that feedback that there was a whole group of disenchanted members. And that continues to run through. And I think the PNM didn't do enough to address those individuals or address those concerns. And there was a little bit of taking the membership for granted. Well, they will understand, or they should understand, or we give them their jobs, so they didn't have to lose their jobs. And they will understand. So the messaging wasn't right.
Mr. Allen, I'm glad you raised the issue.
Put all of that together, and I think you will end up, as I said, in a disenchanted membership, of membership who felt they were being taken for granted.
But just now, Robert. Wendell, go ahead. What you want to say?
I'm glad you raised the issue of La Brea, because this was a seat that you had screened before, I think in 2020, and because of the internal machinations, you weren't selected. Now, La Brea chose to go with Randall Mitchell this time, an MP who was rejected in San Fernando East. Well, he served as MP for San Fernando East, then rejected, and came back to go to contest a seat that he clearly had no connection with. I was not in favor of it, and I made it public, and I was asked to tone it down, and I did. But what really happened in La Brea? Do you think it is because of the selection of the candidate in La Brea in particular?
Well, I mean, Wendell, probably, the big part of the PNM problem is probably what you just said, right? So I'll talk about La Brea, but somebody, you are a member, you asked, you had a view, you spoke about it, and you were asked to tone it down. And I mean, and the truth is you complied, you didn't, you toned it down. And I think what needs to start to happen in the PNM membership is that, when we have strong views about something, I mean, we need to continue to speak out and say about it so that we will not be talking about it afterwards, like now, when we lose an election. All right. That is not the way to that as a member. And I remember reading the charter as a PNM member. What is your responsibility? And probably PNM members need to start to tone it up and stop listening and tone it
never
down.
Spoke to me again, and I have no problem with that.
But I say that at the side, and I said, that to me is part, because I remember when I spoke up and I talked about, all I was speaking about was saying, listen to me, we need to go to a convention, we need to motivate our members, because I felt that way. I looked and I gave examples of what happened in Canada and other places, how this thing is done. It wasn't done. And you're right, nobody spoke to me afterwards. I was a confusion maker. So every time people speak up, it is viewed in a certain way. And as we talked about, probably that's a legacy of our past leadership that we need to address. People say Randall wasn't a good choice. I wouldn't go down that road. Randall actually went to school and was born in Labray. Randall went to school as a primary school in the constituency of Labray. Randall's parents is from the oil company and lived there, and he lived in Labray. So I didn't think that was the reason. The reason why people is the first reason. I think the whole membership of the PNM became disillusioned. They felt that they were being neglected. The constituency of Labray did not have the former NP was not one that serviced the people properly, or it was their feeling. He didn't come out. And the constituency of Labray, which was a traditional PNM area, had very, very poor infrastructure. It was ridiculous. When you walk Labray and you can't believe this is the PNM, this is a PNM area, and PNM needs to start to spend some money in improving the lives of people in their areas, right? And that comes back to representation, and that comes back to looking not after your own meaning. You have to represent your constituency. So they lost Labray, not because of Randall. I think Randall was just happened to be a victim of the wave of PNM members standing up and sending a message and saying, hey, I am fed up of being taken for granted. I want to get representation. I want you to listen to me, and I want you to come and respect me as a member and do what you have to do.
But Mr. Lehan,
so, go ahead, Randall.
Yeah, it can't only be about the representation that they get in or the infrastructural work, because there are UNC diehard, UNC core areas that never got anything under UNC government either, and they continue to support regardless.
Well, I let me tell you something. The truth of the matter is we were in government. We were 10 years in government. And I think people, and when you look at historically is a pretty, we're talking about Labray, but historically, if you look at PNM areas, in a number of the areas that have stayed loyal to the PNM, the reality is the infrastructure, the job opportunities, and so forth, they are not there. Right? Which, as I said, is another side issue with regard to crime that is also plaguing us. But I think the whole thinking of the PNM needs to change. The representation, the consultation, the discussions, they need to go down into and discuss and hold. I think the concept of the leadership, deciding to pick a person to be the leader or the prime minister of the country, and choosing not to go back to the membership with a leadership convention or leadership fight, that tells you the type of arrogance that we will start and postures that we were adopting that were not in keeping with openness and discussions and so forth. So we started to take, and that went wrong. I remember when I brought it up, I was condemned because it was strategy. And well, Robert, that is political strategy. Well, that political strategy was a bad political strategy. And if we continue along that line, Wendell, it will continue to destroy the party. We have lost over 100,000 votes because of that strategy.
Yeah. So you obviously believe that fundamental thing of not calling the internal elections, having that general meeting, that convention really played into the result that we saw on Monday for the PNM. I wanted to talk to you, Robert, about whether you felt that Mr. Young's ethnicity and social status had anything to play in terms of alienating the base of the PNM, in terms of how connected to that approach that was done in him being selected virtually by former Prime Minister Dr. Rowley. And two, you still didn't answer the question about what accounts for the apathy of so many Trinidadians and Tobagonians not voting.
Well, okay. I think to start with, I emphatically, PNM have demonstrated over the years that, again, PNM is not a party that favors its own that much, or the constituencies that they represent. So this idea of ethnicity, I don't think holds at all. I think what people rejected in Mr. Young was and again, whether it is correct or not, the perception of Mr. Young being similar to Dr. Rowley in his management style. And I think people rejected that type of arrogant, talking down, right, I man approach, and know-it-all type individual. I think it's a leadership style. Now, that's basically what I think attracted Dr. Rowley to Mr. Young in the first place, all right? Because I think they are similar in leadership styles, in how they manage. And I think, yes, I think so. I
don't see Mr. Young as being somebody arrogant and talking down.
Well, okay. Well, all right. I mean,
you would have had more interactions with him than I did.
Wendell, I will leave that. And I think if we start that conversation going down the road today, I don't think we will. But as I said, I think the perception that Mr. Young was of the same mold, right, and not as caring, not a person that is what was rejected. That is what was rejected. So as
to how he got there.
Well, how he got there, and
it is more process than it is.
I don't think it had anything to do. His rejection now as an opposition, I think is a rejection of the type of person that Mr. Young was and his leadership style. It had nothing to do with race and how he got there. I think if Mr. Young had gone through a leadership convention, all right, and had gone and connected with the people, and the people felt that this is the person that we wanted, and we had done things the proper manner, then we would have been in a position to stimulate our base. And which
you're confusing me a little bit because is it that you're saying it was the process mainly and partly the authoritative style of leadership, because authoritative style is a style of leadership. So
yep.
is it that what you are claiming may be his authoritative style of leadership and the process that contributed to where we are today with the People's National Movement? Or are you saying it's more process?
I feel one is definitely process. And as we know, there's never one emphatic answer. I think one, it is definitely the process of how he came about the office. And that definitely I will put as the reason. I also feel that the PNM also, by virtue of the process and the person that was put in himself, also had a leadership style that the people in Trinidad and Tobago was rejecting, which is the leadership style of which we want to put the Dr. Rowley type leadership style under. And therefore, the two being put together, the process and the way how Mr. Young is perceived in the country, both of them work together against us.
Yeah. You know, well, I mean, we don't have much more time left because I know we have to get to our morning poll. But the issue of why was there so much apathy in terms of voters? Why is it that voters seemingly are disillusioned? And this is just my hypothesis on the apathy towards voting. Is why are they so disillusioned by the two main choices that we have that they don't feel motivated to come out to vote? And is it a connection to the fact that they think that regardless of who's in power, they don't think that their lives are going to change much?
Well, and which is a difficult and not a difficult place that I think we are approaching. I mean, I think for sure we have spoken before about the reason for the PNM losing their vote. And what it might be interesting, if you add the PNM votes, let's take the first position, that the PNM was motivated, right? And let's assume if we add the 100,000 votes, or let's say 80,000 votes onto the amount of people that came out, right? I think you would end up with a voter turnout of about 60-something%, which, although is low, is traditionally in keeping with where we normally go, and it will be considered in Trinidad and Tobago context a high. So I think there's something happening with the PNM supporter that resulted in us having a even lower voter turnout. All right, and and in my mind, I have given you. We have seen what has happened. I've explained a little bit what I think is contributing to that, which is the 5 years and so forth. But there is the whole idea of why are we not getting 70% and why are we not getting 75%? I mean, and it is probably in our type of politics, the way how leaders on both sides communicate and make people feel that politics is going to help people change their lives. And that has to be the new focus in connecting the politics with the people.
Yeah. A final question. Of course, we will be speaking to Penelope Beckles-Robinson in the next hour as the newly appointed leader of the opposition. What's your sense of her leadership style? Is her leadership style more inclusive? I don't know how you categorize it. And are you hopeful that she can regain the energy for the People's National Movement in terms of its base?
Good question, Richard.
Well, I think for some of the things that we talk about just now as to why the base left, all right, and what they didn't like, I am almost positive that there is no way under Penny's leadership that a transition had to happen. It would not have gone that route. I think Penny is very respectful of the party's process, and she is very respectful of the party membership. When you are around Penny, you feel like if you are important because she connects with each and every one of the members. And therefore, she values them and they feel valued around her. So her decision process, her thought pattern of how she makes decisions will always be putting them first. And if you put them first, you will always decide, I'm going to go to a membership to hear what they have to say. So I think that is what she would bring. Totally different, opposites from where we are at present. Secondly, I mean, I've worked with her professionally. I think she is a person, again, she carries that in her professional. When she manages a meeting, she ensures that you have participation in all the meetings. She's the type of leader that will sit and somebody will be quiet and she would say, what do you have to say? Rather than just
sorry to interrupt you, but what do you think is her style? Is she a transformative leader? Is she a participative leader? Which style do you think she is? Or she's a combination? I know a lot of times people are a combination of different styles.
Well, there are combinations of different styles. I think she's definitely she's a person with vision, but she understands the importance of bringing people along. And she spends the time in building teams, and those are the qualities that I valued in her ability to bring a team together, to work with members of a team, her ability to bring people into conversations, her fact that she makes decisions after serious. Penny is not Penelope doesn't. She will not make a decision without getting all of the facts or the pertinent facts in a matter. So she's a very detailed person in making decisions, very deliberate. So based on my working with her, and I did work with her as she was the governor of the IDB when I was the executive director. So we had a lot of interactions. I mean, I actually went to school with Penny and Presentation College in San Fernando. She was at convent. So we have a long history of a relationship. And I think that she will do a fantastic job.
So, okay. I was going to ask you if she's a good choice, and you just answered it. But that's why we're going to have to leave it. That's why we're going to have to leave it.
Senator Le Hunte.
Yeah. Robert Le Hunte, we're going to have to leave it there this morning. And of course, we will be probably speaking to you later on again at some other time with regard to more and more as the politics unfolds in 2020.
All right. Okay. I know I was not. I must apologize to you and apologize to the public if you did make it. That one of the times last week we were supposed to speak, yes. But as you know, I was in Asia, and the time, as I said, is 12 hours different. So your time was my time at night, and I was out on a trip and I couldn't make it back. So let me publicly apologize to you, Richard, and Ann Wendell. It was no disrespect required and no disrespect to Trinidad and Tobago. I just couldn't make it. And totally thanks again,
Totally understood.
All right, thanks a lot.
Okay, my friend. Take care. All the best.
Mm-hmm. Of course, that was Robert Le Hunte, former government minister, who is on his way home, Richard.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I don't think we have time for a poll because we will be going shortly to the 7 o'clock news, and we're about 2 minutes away. And should we try or should we not try?
Right, let's try it.
What do you think the morning poll should be? Do you support
Penelope Beckles as opposition leader? Penelope Beckles-Robinson as opposition leader?
But you're hearing the poll from Wendell, so what do you think? Do you think do you support Penelope Beckles-Robinson as the new opposition leader, or do you think she's a good choice? Is that how should we phrase that, Wendell?
We could just ask: Do you support the appointment of Penelope Beckles-Robinson as opposition leader?
So that's our poll. Start voting now. See what vote you're getting, Wendell.
Okay. Carol Guevara says yes. Chris Tousse says yes. Somebody pointed out all 3 female leaders are from South, so Penelope Beckles apparently is originally from South. Marcia Rock says yes. Sherwin Kerr, yes. Sabita Bease says yes. Jesse Moss says yes. Nicholas, some new names this morning. Nicholas Link says yes. Susan Jessup, yes. Lennox Ramdani, yes. Rena Buru Jennings didn't vote. Where are we? Alistair Hart says yes. Trinidad Margo, yes. Siobhan Shogun, yes. Dwayne Sylvester, yes. Deepak Mokram didn't vote. Slick Money Grip, no. Oronde Timothy, yes. Big Up Arima. RJ, yes. Far Rockaway says yes also. Far Rockaway voting yes for PNM person. What? What?
Of course, we will be speaking to Penelope Beckles-Robinson in the next hour. So
I have a couple for you guys.
Laura Lezama says yes. She private messaged me, so she's listening and watching.
Right. So Black Pearl says yes. Afia Lashley says yes. Joanne Monkhope says yes. Karen says yes. And yeah, that's it for now.
Welcome, Karen Severan. Patrick Shepard says yes. Julia Batiste, yes. Papi Show, yes. Champion of Democracy, yes. Sterling Francois Morning Sterling says yes. Wayne Ramsey, yes. Wayne Joseph, yes. Marlon Motley, yes. Definitely yes. And Ron DeSantis said no.
And Junior said yes.
All right.
We'll take any others after. Or I continue to vote throughout the news.
Yes, please do.
All right, so let's head to our news at this point. Our 7 a.m. news is next.
The news you need, the clarity you deserve. Local, regional, global. This is Net Radio News Now.
Good morning. This is Amanda Mitchell with the news on New Era TT Radio for Thursday, May 1st, 2025. In a historic development for Trinidad and Tobago, Penelope Beckles-Robinson has been unanimously selected as leader of the opposition by the PNM General Council.
The General Council considered the matter of the appointment of a leader of the opposition arising out of the results of the general election, and by unanimous decision, the General Council has agreed that the Member of Parliament who will fill the role of leader of the opposition will be the MP for the constituency of Arima, the Honourable Penelope Beckles-Robinson.
The decision, announced by PNM General Secretary Foster Cummings following yesterday evening's meeting, marks the first time in the nation's history that women simultaneously hold the positions of President, Prime Minister, and Opposition Leader. The PNM is rebuilding after Monday's election defeat, which saw the party lose over 102,000 votes compared to their 2020 performance. Prime Minister-elect Kamla Persad Bissessar will be sworn in today at 4 p.m. in a ceremony at President's House, officiated by President Christine Kangaloo. This marks Persad Bissessar's return to office after previously serving as the country's first female prime minister from 2010 to 2015. In a social media message yesterday, she thanked supporters, stating, "On election day, you chose hope, you chose progress, you chose a future where everybody wins." She emphasized that the real work begins as her administration prepares to implement its campaign promises. Persad Bissessar has already begun formulating her cabinet. Former Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander, who successfully contested the Tunapuna seat for the UNC, is expected to play a significant role in national security efforts. The incoming government faces immediate tasks, including appointing key positions and establishing new state boards, with appointees under the former administration expected to tender their resignations. Major changes continue within the PNM leadership following Monday's election defeat. Dr. Keith Rowley has resigned as political leader after 15 years in the position, while Stuart Young has stepped down as party chairman, a role he held since 2022. Additionally, Rohan Sinanan has tendered his resignation as deputy political leader, effective today. At a press conference yesterday evening, PNM General Secretary Foster Cummings acknowledged receipt of all 3 resignations, expressing the party's gratitude for their service and wishing them well.
The Council took note of all the resignations that were received and expressed its thanks and gratitude to the officers who have served the party well and who have now chosen to move on from the positions that they have held. In Dr. Rowley's case, he has been political leader for 15 years. In Mr. Young's case, he has been chairman since 2022, and Minister Sinanan has been a deputy political leader for about the same amount of time, just about as Dr. Rowley has been political.
Sinanan explained his decision reflects respect for the natural course of political succession, noting that having been appointed by Dr. Rowley, it was only proper to resign following the former leader's departure. The General Council will meet to consider filling these vacant positions, with Cummings noting that according to the party's constitution, the role of political leader must be filled within 6 months. Resignations are also underway across state enterprises and agencies, a standard practice following a change in government. Sahid Hossain, chairman of the National Petroleum Marketing Company Limited, has already stepped down. Members of other state boards, including the Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, are expected to follow suit after the new cabinet is sworn in today. All current boards were appointed during the PNM's tenure in office. The Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association has extended congratulations to Prime Minister-elect Kamla Persad Bissessar and the newly elected MPs. In a press release yesterday, THTA President Reginald MacLean described this as a pivotal moment for Tobago's tourism industry, expressing optimism about working collaboratively with the new government. The association emphasized that a united public-private partnership is essential to address the challenges the sector continues to face and to position tourism as a key driver of national economic diversification. You are listening to news on New Era TT Radio. In international news, the United States and Ukraine have signed an economic partnership agreement, giving Washington access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals in exchange for establishing an investment fund in the war-torn country. The deal comes after weeks of intense negotiations that at times turned bitter and temporarily derailed U.S. aid to Ukraine. The agreement, which was finalized yesterday, follows months of discussions since President Donald Trump returned to the White House in January. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that the agreement signals clearly to Russia that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term. Ukrainian Economy Minister Yulia Sviridenko traveled to Washington to sign the agreement on behalf of her government. Bessent emphasized that no state or person who financed or supplied the Russian war machine will be allowed to benefit from the reconstruction of Ukraine. That brings us to the end of our news update. I'm Amanda Mitchell for New Era TT Radio. The Breakfast Show with Wendell, Richard, and Sir Charles continues right after this short break.
That was news now. Stay informed with New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
Weight management, etc. But it is much more. Wellness is a holistic integration of physical, social, emotional, spiritual, intellectual, financial, occupational, and environmental state. Join our host, Teria George, a health coach, author, mediator, and CEO of the Institute of Health and Fitness, as she discusses 8 elements with several professionals within the various dimensions of wellness. So let's kick burnout to the curb for good.
Join Terry and George for Dimensions. Fridays at 11 a.m. on New Era TT Radio, Net Radio. The mid-morning just got better. Join Sir Charles for the mid-morning mix and mingle, where good music, real talk, health, and family matters come together, and your voice is heard. Whether you're at work, on the go, or just taking a break, this is the perfect mix to keep you engaged, informed, and entertained. The mid-morning mix and mingle, weekdays, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on New Era TT Radio, Net Radio.
Wake up with the Net Radio Breakfast Show. Rise and shine with Wendell Stevens and Richard Raghuvarsing, weekdays from 6 o'clock to 9 a.m. Start your day feeling good, energized, and informed as we tackle the biggest issues of the day, get you where you need to be on time, and keep you in the know about everything that matters. We bring you insightful discussions, expert analysis, and the latest updates so you're always ahead of the curve. Mornings matter. Your voice matters. And it all starts right here on New Era TT Radio, Net Radio. The Net Radio Breakfast Show, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Wake up informed and stay ahead.
Woman, got to respect your woman, yeah. Love up your woman, yeah. Handle your woman, yeah. Love up your woman, yeah. Say respect your woman, yeah. And she is the woman, the woman, the woman, the woman, the woman, yeah. This is for the woman, yeah. Sing one for the woman, yeah. Sing a song for the woman, the woman, the woman, the woman, the woman. A woman is a queen who not be checked. You treat her with a love and due respect. A woman is a thing to treat you nice. You make her life a hell of paradise. But someone don't know how they think does go. I know that treat a woman they don't know. So right now only woman in the land. They come together. If you is a woman, how will you put up your hand? And if you is a man, mister, what you understand? If you is a woman, how will you put up your hand? And if you is a man, mister, what you understand? Hey, hey, I dig it up, I dig it up, I dig it up, a batter to the ground. Tell her all kind of things to put them down. She asks you anything, you ring and screw. But I always want to tell her what to do. You never are when she needs you most. You're picking up your dress, your frock and boast. No one you can't win, the mice must play. This is a moment. If it is a woman, I want you put up your hand. And if you is a man, look at her and understand. If it is a woman, I want you put up your hand. And if you is a man, look at her and understand. Hey, hey, hey. I dig it down, 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 woman. I dig it down, I dig it down.
Mornings just got better. You're locked into Net Radio Breakfast Show, fueling your day with the best music and real talk.
Big up the ladies, welcome the ladies, and of course, 3 ladies at the helm right now. Wow, I tell you, Trinidad and Tobago looking good. All right, of course, we welcome you. After, of course, this is the second hour of the breakfast show. We're glad to be here with you, and of course, we're going to join Amanda once again for our weather update.
Good morning again, Trinidad and Tobago. This is your weather update for Thursday, the 1st of May, 2025. Today will be mostly fair but hazy, despite a few brief isolated showers. We want to alert you that a significant concentration of Saharan dust is present in the atmosphere. Sensitive persons should take necessary precautions to protect their health. For today, Trinidad can expect a maximum temperature of 33 degrees Celsius and a minimum of 25 degrees Celsius. In Tobago, the maximum temperature will reach 31 degrees Celsius with a minimum of 26 degrees Celsius. The heat index will make it feel like 37 degrees Celsius in Trinidad and 35 degrees Celsius in Tobago, so please stay hydrated throughout the day. Looking at sea conditions, waters remain moderate with wave heights of up to 1.5 meters in open waters and below 1 meter in sheltered areas. Yesterday, there was no recorded rainfall at both Piarco and Crown Point. The monthly cumulative rainfall stands at 62 millimeters for Piarco and 46.3 millimeters for Crown Point. The sun rose this morning at 5:47 and will set at 6:18 this evening. For those planning maritime activities today, high tides in Port of Spain will occur at 6:09 this morning and 7:40 this evening, with low tides at 12:04 this morning and 1:03 in the afternoon. In Scarborough, high tides will be at 5:44 this morning and 7:18 this evening, with low tide at 12:45 in the afternoon. This has been your weather update for today. Stay cool, keep safe, and remember to take precautions against the Saharan dust. From all of us at New Era TT Radio, have a wonderful Thursday and a happy start to the month of May.
RSRR Productions has done it again. Married and Mischievous was a riot at Sapa. Now we head to Cipriani College for 2 nights only. On Saturday the 3rd of May at 8:30 p.m. and Sunday the 4th at 6:30 p.m. Tickets available now at usual outlets and from Wednesday the 30th of April at Cipriani College box office. This play is strictly for adults. Married and Mischievous is an experience you'll never forget. S&H Rumbox, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rumbox, drinking out of the box.
Advertise with us on New Era TT Radio, the fastest growing streaming platform for talk in Trinidad and Tobago. Audio and video ads welcome. Elevate your brand with us. Connect with us at newerattradio@yahoo.com or call us at 299-5156. Now what are you waiting for?
Of course, we're back, and you're into the second hour of the breakfast show this morning, Thursday, the 1st of May. I hope you said rabbit this morning, if you believe in all of that. And of course, you can tell me if there were additional votes. Our poll this morning. Let me just pull up the poll. Our poll this morning was: do you support Penelope Beckles-Robinson as opposition leader? And so let me hear the additional votes, Wendell.
All right. So just before I give you the additional votes, let me say good morning to Amjad Ali of Furniture Plus and Peter Lewis of M&E TV, who finds Amanda absolutely gorgeous. I say, well, put her on TV, you'll see her better.
What are you waiting for?
Everybody love Amanda, you know. Amanda is married, guys. Be careful.
Yes.
Right? So Marlon Motley, I think was the last vote I gave you, right? At 7 on the dot. Ian Robley says, okay, she didn't vote. He didn't vote. Beauty Culture, yes. Boy Bidesi, yes. Trini Gets Fit, yes. Margaret Chow, yes. Annie Bunyan, yes. Faraya Hayatari, definitely yes. Miguel Gonzalez, yes. Susie B, yes. Robert Taylor said he's got to say it twice. And Champion of Democracy said Amanda is so amazingly gorgeous. Definitely wife quality. Well, she's already a wife. Steph says yes. And Pearl Cody says, I found you this morning. Well, we found you too, Pearl. And today's Pearl Barrett's birthday, Rhoda's mom. Today's her birthday.
Happy birthday to her.
As the name Pearl come up, I remember today's Pearl Barrett's birthday. Rhoda's
Happy
mom.
birthday, Auntie Pearl.
All right. So
you have any votes, Charles?
Yeah. So Miss Sampson says yes. Cullen says yes. And Long Islander says yes. I'm checking all my phones here, we know that. Right. Sean Ram says yes. Nikisha says yes. Anand says yes. And Sexy Red says yes.
And I will add another yes to that, even though the person didn't vote. Roland Keith Pereira. He says, pleasant good morning, everybody. But Roland, I know you're saying yes. Still, I got your vote already also, too.
All right. And Charmin in New York says yes.
All right. So, our morning poll this morning was do you support this action of Penelope Beckles-Robinson as opposition leader? We had 55 people voting on the poll this morning. And of the 55 people, 54 of you said yes. One person voted in the negative, but 54 of you said yes. And so that's a fantastic endorsement.
Yes.
And what better point at which And here we are. Penelope Beckles.
And she have a red wall on the back of her,
It's actually, Stephen, you're a little colorblind. It's orange.
Yes. Thank you. Tell him that.
Thank you, Richard.
I only seen red these days, you know.
Well, I don't mind if it was red, but you know. Anyway, you guys are very happy. I mean, there's nothing better than to see you guys smiling. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Oh, good morning, good morning. And thanks so much for taking time out to speak with us this morning. We appreciate you joining us.
You know, this is one morning I would like to be sleeping a little longer, you know. But
I can imagine.
Your work now starts, you know.
Yes.
Well, continues even harder.
Yeah. It's been a long 6 weeks, you know. Yeah, it's been a long 6 weeks. So
yes.
I'm a little tired, but I'm happy.
All right.
I assume there was lots of celebration yesterday that you would have celebrated the fact that you had been selected as the leader of the opposition. How do you feel personally about this?
Well, you know, looking back at my political career over the last 3 decades, I think it's quite an accomplishment. I mean, I'm quite happy. I'm looking forward, you know, to getting back into the parliament, especially having our party having lost the election. I mean, we have a lot of work to do, as has been seen by the data, you know, the research, the feedback, and I'm really grateful to come on the program with you all, having done the poll, because of course it gives me an idea. You know, 55 people is a lot to poll, and getting that results of 54 that's wonderful.
Now, one of your first responsibilities, I guess, Mrs. Beckles-Robinson, is to appoint 6 opposition senators. You care to give us a hint as to who they might be, or what are you looking for in terms of filling the opposition Senate bench?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it would be a balance between experience and youth. You have Trinidad and Tobago, so of course you want to include Tobago, but I would want to talk to some of my colleagues and some as well as members of the party before I make that decision.
Can we expect to see any of the candidates who may have lost their seat as a senator?
Well, let me put it this way. Having lost a seat is not a reason to be excluded.
Yeah,
absolutely. As diplomatic as an answer as you could get.
Yeah. Were you surprised personally at the level of the loss of the People's National Movement?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
What do you think accounted for that? What do you think accounted for that?
I think it's a combination of factors. I mean, I can talk even about my own constituency in Arima. I mean, people weren't hiding that they had some challenges, and some people bluntly said they weren't going to vote, and they gave you a multiplicity of reasons. Some being, the normal thing, they don't think the PNM did anything for you. I mean, I've been hearing that all my life, in my politics. Some people felt that, they weren't happy at the timing of the elections. But people gave a multiplicity of reasons, all that I wouldn't go into. But I was surprised, at the loss. So to move from 22 to 13, and then of course the fact that 100,000 people didn't vote. I mean, in my own case personally, over the years I would get somewhere between 9,000 and 10,000, so it meant about 3,000 people did not vote. And when I look at all my other colleagues, it's you could see a similarity. I mean, I spoke to a number of them, and Marvin, Simon. So that 3,000 seemed to be consistent around that figure in most of the constituencies.
Yeah, in terms of the, I know we spoke to Robert Le Hunte in the last hour, and he was very supportive of your ascension to the post. I will state that, and he felt that part of the problem that the PNM lost was the lack of transparency in moving to new leadership. Of course, it was no secret that he felt a convention should have been called, and that there should have been the process of selecting a new leader, which was bypassed. And of course, it was what it was. So he felt that contributed in terms of that lack of process, because you didn't give the rank and file, and the membership didn't feel engaged enough in the process. And he felt, of course, the authoritative style of Dr. Rowley, he felt lingered to a certain degree with Mr. Young, and he felt all of that kind of combination is what resulted in why the People's National Movement did not come out to a vote. Do you agree with that kind of analysis?
Well, let me say this, that again, going back to what I would call my engagement with my constituents, and of course going to a couple other constituencies. Yes, the issue of not having a convention is always a big thing in the party, because traditionally, that is what takes place. And people did tell you that would have been their preference, to have a convention and to make sure that in terms of the selection of the leader, that actually materialized. Now, as it relates to Dr. Rowley's style, I mean, Dr. Rowley's style has always been the same, since I knew him years ago. That is his style. People may argue that ideally you want a different style, sometimes a different tone. But the truth is, when he was elected in 2010, or even going back to years in the parliament, that was his brand. And I mean, that's the brand that made him, so that, therefore, to say that at this stage to me,
Yeah. What is your personal style of leadership? What would you categorize it as?
Well, listen, my thing is much about more being about dealing with issues of service. I mean, some people argue, for example, that you find you're a little too soft and you're not sufficiently aggressive. Leadership is not only about yourself. Leadership is about a team. I think what is critical at this time is to be a lot more caring. One of the issues that I found in the public domain is people feeling that the party has not been sufficiently caring. The party hasn't been knowledgeable about the issues. That interaction between the MPs and the public, your accessibility. So I think that what we need now is to be a lot more, to be caring, to listen a lot more, or at least give the impression that you're listening. Because sometimes people just feel that you need to listen. I can tell you as a member of parliament, you can't always deliver on some of the things that people ask you for. But one of the things they want you to do is listen and at least give it the best shot in terms of what are the options, the guidance. So I do feel we need to be a lot more caring in the public domain. I think that's one of the issues that impacted very negatively on us.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think, Mrs. Beckles, about the issue of calling an election almost immediately upon achieving the position of Prime Minister? Do you think that more time should have been given for us and the people to know Stuart Young as a Prime Minister, as opposed to going headlong into an election? Again, this is the third time we called an early election and the third time we lost. Do you think that that was an error?
Well, I don't know if I would say it's an error, but what I would say is that for Stuart Young, what actually happened, I don't feel that he got enough time to be able to show his brand, to show his style of leadership, because he would have gone into an election almost right away without people having had the benefit to know exactly who he is, what's his vision. Yes, he would have articulated it on the platform, but I don't think that it was sufficient. And of course, the truth is that you had Dr. Rowley there as well, and you had Stuart there as well. So that, in a sense, you had both of them at the same time, even though Dr. Rowley was the leader and Stuart was the Prime Minister. But the truth is, I don't think that the opportunity was there for him to have a brand of his own style of leadership. I mean, it's like, for me, if you become the opposition leader, as I have now, you do have an opportunity to show your own style of leadership. People would have seen you in the parliament, they'd have seen you around for several years, but you do now have a different opportunity to show how you can lead, what's your vision, what's your priorities. I think that would give me time to do that.
Now you're about to sit in the parliament with someone who would have just served as Prime Minister. Yes. On the opposition bench. What is your relationship like with Mr. Young, and how can we expect that to work for the betterment of the PNM and the citizenry at the end of the day?
Well, that's why I go back to the whole issue of team. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, you are the opposition leader, and therefore you have that opportunity to develop your own brand, but you must recognize you cannot do it by yourself. I mean, when there's a debate in the parliament, you have 13 members of parliament. So I think it's important to give persons the opportunity to be able to speak. I think a lot of it has to do with having your caucus and making sure that people develop strategies. I think that's what is important. I mean, I have a good relationship with Stuart, and I'm looking forward to be able to develop that relationship, to benefit from his expertise. I mean, he's an attorney. He has served in the Ministry of Energy. He served in the Office of the Prime Minister. So that I can also learn from him and vice versa. We have the benefit of having Mr. Imbert there. We now have young persons. We have Dominic Romain. We have Christian Birchwood. We have Hans Devines. So you have a combination. I mean, there's Marvin, Nyan. So, I mean, I think it's a good team.
Yeah.
And I think
Kareem Marcel, who has come a long way.
Yes, who has come a long way. He's an attorney as well. So the truth is that we do have the opportunity, to gel and to realize that if we have to get it right, it's really about teamwork.
I wanted to ask you because politics has a lot of people aspirational to power. Sometimes you can get backstabbed politically. You can. It's a rough and tumble game as people work behind the scenes to achieve their own political ends in that aspiration to power. I mean, you have challenged, you had in the past challenged Dr. Rowley for the political leadership. Of course, the convention voted for Dr. Rowley. You, at the point that Stuart Young was selected, in the public arena, there was leaks, whether valid or not, that there was a competition between you and Stuart Young. And obviously, Dr. Rowley was lobbying for Stuart Young. And eventually, of course, he was selected. And now it has come full circle that you are now the leader of the opposition. So it has taken a certain trajectory of I don't know, political seasoning, maybe sometimes pain and disappointment to get to where you are today. Does the politics ever make you jaded about what goes on behind the scenes that the public is not always privy to?
Well, maybe yes and no, but I think what has helped me to deal with it, because I mean, this is about resilience. As you know, I've been there, I started off in local government in 1998. I was fired, so I was fired again in 2013. So it has, it's part of the cause, but I've survived, and you recognize that this is not always about what you want, when you want it. It's a combination of things, because politics is dynamic. It's a political party. You have to deal with leaders. You have to deal with an executive. And what is interesting is that I challenged Dr. Rowley, but he gave me another opportunity to serve in his cabinet. So you too, as a leader and as an individual, you understand that it's give and take. And what is always important is the party. If you decide that you want to be part of an institution, then you have to abide by rules and regulations. If you don't like that, then you have choices. But for me, I have always enjoyed serving. I have realized that it's up and down. It's not a question where everything is always going to work your way. But if you are truthful and you're loyal to the party, one of the things I would share with some of the younger ones who are now entering the party, don't expect that everything is going to be perfect. And learn from the experience of others. Be a student of politics, not just in Trinidad and Tobago, because if you look at what is happening globally for many other leaders and many other political parties, it really isn't any different. We see what is happening now in Canada. We see what is happening in Britain, worldwide. So you have to learn politics both locally and international.
What do you think will be your style leading the opposition bench in terms of the government led by Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar bringing legislation to the parliament? Because we know that their style was to oppose practically everything. What would be your style in terms of supporting the government for the betterment of Trinidad and Tobago at the end of the day?
Yeah, well, it's all about holding the government accountable. Holding the government accountable, but at the same time, ensuring that you don't take a position where you're going to be obstructionist. I think the people of Trinidad and Tobago deserve better, and it really can't be business as usual, where even before the legislation comes to the parliament, that you simply say you're not going to support it. I maintain my position of being a team, part of a team, of having your caucus, but also being a responsible opposition. And responsibility means you look at the legislation. There may very well be times, I was asked last night if at all it would be possible that you would meet with the now Prime Minister and her party. Previously, both Mr. Manning and Dr. Rowley had teams where, you met with the government or opposition, depending. And yes, I'm going to be open to that, always in the interest of the government first. And
the politics sometimes gets very hostile and vitriolic on both sides, and it becomes a demonization of both sides from different perspectives, depending on the lens of which you look at through. You look through at it, and it also feeds into the communicative style, in my opinion, in terms of the country, in how people relate to each other, and so there almost seems to be a hostility rather than a debate and disagreement in a debating style form. I don't know what your personal relationship is with Kama Prasad-Bissessar, what kind of relationship you all have, but do you recognize that that's a problem in the politics, how hostile it has become?
Absolutely, yes. I have tried very hard to stay away from that level of hostility, because I think that the public is looking, the average Trinidad and Tobago really does not want hostile politics. What they want you to do is deliver. They want you to be able to debate They want you to hold the government accountable. At the end of the day, they want us to pass good legislation. If we think about crime as an example, I mean, people don't want you to be there being hostile and carrying on with each other, and at the end of the day, crime still exists, or they don't have a better standard of living, or in terms of education, you're not building schools. So I'm very clear that everybody has a different style, everybody has a different tone. For me, I hear people at times, as I said, saying you're not aggressive enough. When it is necessary to be aggressive, yes, I will be aggressive. At the end of the day, it is what you deliver to the public, is what you deliver to your constituents. And every situation requires a different approach. But at the end of the day, as politicians and as leaders, we need to understand that the young people are looking, the public is looking, and they sometimes they take a page out of our book, out in terms of how we behave. So we also have to realize that we have a responsibility, the way we debate, the way we lead, because then it's very difficult for us to be able to talk to young people about doing things differently.
But now that we have 3 women at the head of our the institutions, the president is a woman, the prime minister is a woman, and now the leader of the opposition is a woman. This is the first time we've had that in our history. Do you believe there'll be a kind of calming effect on the nation? Because I always say, and I've said it here many times, we have this level of hate and anger and divisiveness just permeating through the society that is just kind of disturbing. Do you believe that there'll be a calming now of that?
Well, I mean, we'd wait to see if that is the case. I mean, in my view, women lead differently. I mean, people argue that may not be the case. Sometimes you have a totally different style, but people are definitely looking forward to a calmer approach. I mean, I've heard it, people come to you and say, listen, we really do not care, or we do not like the fact that the tone gets to the stage where you actually lose the sense of what you're doing. We're not interested. We're going to turn off the television. We don't hear you. So I think we have a responsibility to be able to understand what the public expects. I mean, yes, you have your own style. At the end of the day, it's really all about a better Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, that's how it should be. Will you be willing to take some of our calls? I think some of our listeners would want to congratulate you.
I'm sure.
So if we could open up our lines at this point at 281-1315, 281-1315. You could direct call or you could WhatsApp call. We take some of your calls at this point. Of course, we are speaking to the leader of the opposition, Penelope Beckles-Robinson, on the breakfast show on New Era TT Radio. So 281.
Don't forget Member of Parliament for Rima.
And the Member of Parliament for Rima, as I was telling Penny last night, finally Rima gets something. Finally.
All right, so we have some callers on Instagram. Caller, good morning to you. Caller? All right. Lost it.
All right.
Richard, you were talking a while ago about relationships, and you were talking about the relationship with Kamala Persad-Bissessar. One of the interesting things, even in your party, that sometimes people form all kinds of views when you try to engage other members of the opposite party. I mean, people even sometimes want to accuse you because you are talking to another member of the party and accuse you of being UNC. I guess we have had it on both sides. So I think it's important for people to understand that governance is about both the opposition and the government. So there are times you're going to have to engage with your colleagues. Sometimes you meet them in different spaces. I remember when I went down to DB, there was this big thing that you are UNC because you went in an activity that was public, and there were, of course, several members of the opposition at the time there. So that, we have to understand that we are going to, there are times when you have to be cordial. You don't have to agree on everything, but the point about it is you have to be respectful. You have to be respectful. And my thing is that my mantra, be respectful, hold them accountable, but at the end of the day, your vision is for the party, which I have been a member of now for 3 decades, and I'm a very proud member of the People's National Movement.
I think we have a caller online. Good morning, caller.
Caller, good morning.
Good morning.
Gentlemen, good morning to Mrs. Robinson. Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
First I want to say to Richard that my answer to the poll was no. But I want to direct this to Mrs. Robinson. I'm not asking a question now. I'm just making a statement. Personally, as a strong PNM supporter, I personally did not like the what transpired yesterday. I didn't like the process and the whole brouhaha about what went on. And I think from a humane point of view, I could imagine how Mr. Young and Dr. Rowley would have felt. And I don't think it made us look any better yesterday. And I would think that it felt to me like Dr. Rowley had been undermined all the time. And I think he would have sensed that, But I would think that we would have given a young person a chance to carry the party forward. I heard you say that Mr. Young has his style, and he didn't get enough chance to show his form of leadership. And I think that you all should have given him that chance and let the party grow with a young person.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So we have the callers on the line.
A lot of people don't understand the democratic process. The democratic process is that any one of the 13 members could have been appointed opposition leader once they have the support of the majority. It isn't a given that one person should be it. I don't understand. I don't think people understand that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing about how people take things personally. I mean, the truth is that, I got, you had colleagues who were willing to support you. The Constitution is very clear that if you have the support of the majority, then you can become the leader of the opposition. So I understand the concerns because, again, it's about being in the party, is about wanting the best from the party. So I respect the view of the caller, but I also respect that there is a democratic process. Unlike 2010, when Dr. Rowley became the leader of the party, leader of the opposition, it was also a fact where that you had members of the caucus deciding that they wanted to support Dr. Rowley, notwithstanding the fact that Mr. Manning was there. He offered to continue. That's how he became the leader at the time.
And I'm happy you reminded us.
I think we have a caller on the line, Wendell. Good morning.
Yeah.
Caller, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Go ahead.
Okay, I would like to congratulate my opposition leader, Ms. Beckles. My name is David Tate, and I intend to work with my opposition leader, my political leader, Ms. Beckles, all for us to get back into office. I will give all of my life and my blood to the party and my leader, because I have never shifted, and I always believe great is the PNM, it shall prevail.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Very much,
David.
Yes. A strong endorsement.
Mm-hmm. I know David well.
Blood and all.
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yeah. Caller online. Caller, good morning to you.
A blessed good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And a blessed good morning to you, Mrs. Beckles.
Thank you very much.
All God's blessing, health, and strength to you, my good lady. First thing I'd like to say congratulations to you, and also early happy Mother's Day to you, my dear.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I just want to say the stone that was rejected now becomes the cornerstone. The foundation going to be rebuilt. It's not a sad day for us. It's just a day for us to wake up and realize Mrs. Beckles is a person always on the ground with people. She was never a person who will wait until election to come around. She always there. I always see her on the Facebook, especially. Maybe a court, maybe cricket, sports. You're always there with people. It's not a person that you could go up to, Ms. Beckles. It's a people person. And I just ask God to continue to bless you, my dear. to you and your family. And the whole of the PNM is not a sad day. It's a day to rejoice still, because we're in the land of the living and we're going forward. And congratulations to the 3 ladies who will be taking the realm of Trinidad forward.
All right, no problem.
Thank
Thank
you
you very much, Kola. Appreciate it. All right.
And on the chat too, Mrs. Beckles, you have a lot of endorsements also too on the YouTube chat as we speak. A lot of people are in fact endorsing you.
Yeah, we can take a couple more calls, Sir Charles.
Yes, Kola, good morning.
Good morning, Sir Charles.
Morning.
Good morning, my Honorable Penny. This is a supporter of you for many years. I just wanted to congratulate you. And I also want to tell you, I have a sister who lives in Abu Dhabi, and she met you when you were there in Abu Dhabi. And from the first day when they were trying to get a leader for the party, my sister told me, I'm praying for Mrs. Penny to become the leader. She's such a nice person. And I totally agree. And I just want to wish you God's blessings in this endeavor, because I know you will make it. Your temperament, your aura, everything will go with it. And I want to wish you the best. Take care.
Thank you very much.
As that caller mentioned, leader. Now the position of political leader will also come up very soon at a convention, Mrs. Beckles-Robinson. I suppose you are also going to be contesting the post now of political leader again. How do you feel about your chances there also?
Well, I mean, I would say this. I do have the support. People have asked me, and yes, I will give it the consideration. At the once that is announced, yes, I will.
Okay.
But Wendell, as you always say, the discipline of the PNM will kick in. Not so? You always tell me that.
Well,
anytime I raise issue, Penny, with Wendell about there's a bacchanal in the PNM, he's always telling me the discipline of the PNM will kick in.
And it did in strange enough, I also said this is 2010 all over again. We were here 15 years ago, We are back to
you
that.
actually were in the General Council, right, Wendell?
Yes. Happy I ain't around in nothing again. Good.
Guys, we
can take one more call. We can take one more call before we close off the interview.
Yeah. Hello, good morning, Kola.
Yeah, good morning. Congratulations to the leader of the opposition, Penny Beckles. I look at it this way. In any organization, whether it's political, business, or otherwise, a sports club or otherwise, there's always someone who was deserving of the ascendancy, and for reasons and other machination, they were stifled and deprived. And in this case, you fit that bill, Ms. Beckles. You stayed the course within the PNM with all the names and the use and all the problems you encountered, and you deserve today to bring a new style of leadership to the PNM. One is that is not pregnant with arrogance and talk down to. I made a statement yesterday while I was by Bally's House that after Mr. Maurice Marshall, you are probably the only politician in Trinidad and Tobago who stands up and listens to the man in the street if he stops you or encounters you and have something to say. In other instances, you find them walking away and you have to walk behind them to tell them what issue you want to raise to them. You always give a listening ear. You are a people person. You are one who loves people naturally, and that will bring back the PNM to its mooring. Arrogance didn't do it. Thank you very much.
Caller, hold on. Caller, is he gone? Caller? I know this voice from way back in the day. Is this Mr. Cokery?
Yes, this is
my goodness. I haven't heard you in years.
I have searched specifically to support Ms. Penny Beckles in whatever she encounters in the future. I was at the verge of doing like you, Wendell, and taking a back seat. As a matter of fact, for the past 6 months, I came face to face with certain truths that made me withdraw my support from Dr. Rowley. And in that interview he had with the journalist, when he said he doesn't care about legacy, something is wrong with someone who is thinking so, especially a leader. Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah.
I do want to apologize for all the people who we cannot take on the lines today because I don't think we have ever had so many calls at one point in time. Ms. Beckles, I really want to wish you all the best going forward. Anybody?
Well, this is my first interview, okay? So
And we
I
have
have had the benefit of Richard and Stephen, talking from time to time. And yes, when I heard the time 7:15, I said, "Oh Lord!" But I just want to say thanks as well. I want to say thanks to all the callers. I want to say thanks to the poll, thanks to the support, thanks to Trinidad and Tobago, thanks to the People's National Movement, and my colleagues who supported me. And I'll come back on the show again. So,
all right, thank you very much.
We'll hold you to that. Because of course, and we'll take even more calls then so that people can interact with you as we move forward. So thank you so much, Penelope Beckles-Robinson, leader of the opposition, for speaking with us this morning. We appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That voice, Mr. Cookery, that's from since Gladiator days,
Yeah, that's a long time,
I haven't heard that man in ages.
Well, we'll go for a short break and then we'll come back with Dr. Indera Sagewan, of course, economist, and we're going to discuss the economy, what the promises the UNC has made as they move into governance, and whether they are sustainable or not in her opinion. We will be right back.
RSRR Productions has done it again. Married and Mischievous was a riot at Zappa. Now we head to Cipriani College for 2 nights only. On Saturday the 3rd of May at 8:30 p.m. and Sunday the 4th at 6:30 p.m. Tickets available now at usual outlets and from Wednesday the 30th of April at Cipriani College box office. This play is strictly for adults. Married and Mischievous is an experience you'll never forget.
The other two guys were involved.
S&H Rumbox, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rumbox, drinking out of the box.
Advertise with us on New Era TT Radio, the fastest growing streaming platform for talk in Trinidad and Tobago. Audio and video ads welcome. Elevate your brand with us. Connect with us at newerattradio@yahoo.com or call us at 299-5156. Now what are you waiting for?
All right, so we are back, and of course, we have Dr. Indera Sagewan joining us on the breakfast show this morning. Thank you so much, Dr. Sagewan, for joining us this morning. We appreciate you taking the time.
Hi, morning, Mrs. Sagewan.
Morning, gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, of course, the election results, I think, stunned a lot of people. The level of defeat by the PNM suffered at the polls, but I remember telling Wendell that I thought that the UNC had the superior marketing campaign. I think the PNM struggled to get on message to compete with them, and eventually they were getting there. But I told him some of the ads were really good, and he himself said, and whether you could correct me if I'm wrong. You yourself said if he wasn't, a member of the People's National Movement, and he was just watching the ads, he would vote for the UNC.
Yeah.
and so the results became what they became. But a lot of promises made. As an economist, what do you think about all of those promises, and how sustainable are they?
Richard, I just want to start before I get into that. I mean, this is a defining moment in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. Definitely women rule. And I want to, on your program, congratulate two of them in particular, the new Prime Minister, Mrs. Penelope Beckles-Robinson, and our new leader of the opposition, I think we're in for some very, very interesting time. I think we're in for a time when governance, both at the level of government and the opposition, is going to be a lot different. And I really very much look forward to it. Having said that, I also wanted to say, I mean, I agree. I think it is definitely that the UNC ran the superior campaign. The superior campaign on many fronts. The messaging was really on point, that resonated. And this is why when a lot of people are saying that the members of the PNM didn't come out to vote, but a lot of them who did come out to vote went the other way. And in large part because of that particular messaging. It was softer, it was gentle. I mean, the last 10 years have been difficult. And I do want to recognize the impact of COVID-19, the impact on inflation, etc. But there was a lot that the former government could have done and should have done to have eased the burden of the population, to have put the country on a different kind of trajectory that was not done. And therefore, they have to take responsibility for it. I'm not going to get into the politics of how a prime minister was elected, etc. I mean, I don't think we have time for that, which obviously I don't agree with. But clearly, the people of the People's National Movement have spoken and they have rejected it, and they say you cannot simply disrespect us and our party and our processes the way it was. So, that is my first introduction. Now, in terms of the issue of the promises and how affordable, of course, it is a reality that what this new government is coming into in terms of the availability of revenue is very limited. Our Heritage and Stabilization Fund has been drawn. The former government has drawn into that, even though we still have over $5 billion in there. So we do have some amount of buffers in place. But of course, the kind of expenditure that is required in order to deliver on the promises is going to be severe. But my thing is that we've never been in a place more where we need to, and I want to say that the new government needs to adopt creative and innovative ways in terms of balancing the promises that have been made on the political hustings and what the reality of the economics are. And it is not an impossibility to deliver on some of the critical ones in short term while deferring the delivering of others to the medium to long term. I think it all comes down to how the messaging continues. And if the government is careful in terms of ensuring that they take the people of the country along with them through the governance process, remain in communication with them, remain in conversation with them, involving them in the process of finding ways in order to meet people's needs while at the same time not bankrupting the government, I think that there can be solutions that can be found. And I could even give you some examples.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. What do you think are the low-hanging fruit that they can do in the short term?
Sure. Let's take, for example,
sorry to interrupt you. You have to just take a short break for some news, and then when we come back, we'll continue the conversation.
Absolutely.
All right. Sir Charles?
The news you need, the clarity you deserve. Local, regional, global. This is Net Radio News Now.
Good morning. This is Amanda Mitchell with the news on New Era TT Radio for Thursday, May 1st, 2025. In a historic development for Trinidad and Tobago, Penelope Beckles-Robinson has been unanimously selected as leader of the opposition by the PNM General Council. The decision, announced by PNM General Secretary Foster Cummings following yesterday evening's meeting, marks the first time in the nation's history that women simultaneously hold the positions of President, Prime Minister, and opposition leader. The PNM is rebuilding after Monday's election defeat, which saw the party lose over 102,000 votes compared to their 2020 performance. Prime Minister-elect Kamla Persad-Bissessar will be sworn in today at 4 p.m. in a ceremony at President's House, officiated by President Christine Kangaloo. This marks Persad-Bissessar's return to office after previously serving as the country's first female prime minister from 2010 to 2015. In a social media message yesterday, she thanked supporters, stating, "On election day, you chose hope, you chose progress, you chose a future where everybody wins." She emphasized that the real work begins as her administration prepares to implement its campaign promises. Persad-Bissessar has already begun formulating her cabinet. Former Senior Superintendent Roger Alexander, who successfully contested the Tunapuna seat for the UNC, is expected to play a significant role in national security efforts. The incoming government faces immediate tasks, including appointing key positions and establishing new state boards, with appointees under the former administration expected to tender their resignations. Major changes continue within the PNM leadership following Monday's election defeat. Dr. Keith Rowley has resigned as political leader after 15 years in the position, while Stuart Young has stepped down as party chairman, a role he held since 2022. Additionally, Rohan Sinanan has tendered his resignation as deputy political leader, effective today. At a press conference yesterday evening, PNM General Secretary Foster Cummings acknowledged receipt of all three resignations, expressing the party's gratitude for their service and wishing them well. Sinanan explained his decision reflects respect for the natural course of political succession, noting that having been appointed by Dr. Rowley, it was only proper to resign following the former leader's departure. The General Council will meet to consider filling these vacant positions, with Cummings noting that according to the party's constitution, the role of political leader must be filled within 6 months. Resignations are also underway across state enterprises and agencies, a standard practice following a change in government. Sahid Hossain, chairman of the National Petroleum Marketing Company Limited, has already stepped down. Members of other state boards, including the Urban Development Corporation of Trinidad and Tobago, are expected to follow suit after the new cabinet is sworn in today. All current boards were appointed during the PNM's tenure in office. The Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association has extended congratulations to Prime Minister-elect Kamla Persad-Bissessar and the newly elected MPs. In a press release yesterday, THTA President Reginald MacLean described this as a pivotal moment for Tobago's tourism industry, expressing optimism about working collaboratively with the new government. The association emphasized that a united public-private partnership is essential to address the challenges the sector continues to face and to position tourism as a key driver of national economic diversification. You are listening to news on New Era TT Radio. In international news, the United States and Ukraine have signed an economic partnership agreement, giving Washington access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals in exchange for establishing an investment fund in the war-torn country. The deal comes after weeks of intense negotiations that at times turned bitter and temporarily derailed U.S. aid to Ukraine. The agreement, which was finalized yesterday, follows months of discussions since President Donald Trump returned to the White House in January. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent stated that the agreement signals clearly to Russia that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term. Ukrainian Economy Minister Yulia Sviridенko traveled to Washington to sign the agreement on behalf of her government. Bessent emphasized that no state or person who financed or supplied the Russian war machine will be allowed to benefit from the reconstruction of Ukraine. That brings us to the end of our news update. I'm Amanda Mitchell for New Era TT Radio.
That was news now. Stay informed with New Era TT Radio. Net Radio.
Mornings got better. You're locked into Net Radio Breakfast Show, fueling your day with the best music and real talk.
All right, so we're back to the Sagewan, and of course, we are talking economy, economics, and of course, what the UNC promised and whether they'll be able to achieve it. I know, Dr. Sagewan, when we broke for the news, you're about to give the low-hanging fruit that you think the UNC could tackle first in terms of the short term?
Good. In terms of delivering on some of the promises, right? So I think one simple one would be the issue of laptops, making laptops available for children within the school system. I think it is a not that one. I think is a relatively easy one, but it doesn't necessarily have to be funded by the state. The government can explore the option of providing a tax credit to corporate Trinidad and Tobago, for example, to deliver on this particular issue. And if I were in the government, I would suggest a tax break that is spread over a few years, because you don't want to bundle a situation where the government's its tax revenue is impacted significantly. So it can be spread over several years. There's so many models. I mean, teachers have been weighing in, because I made some recommendations on Facebook, and teachers have been recommending so many good suggestions. There's, for example, saying it should be restricted to Form 4, Form 5, and so not all students. There is the issue of also considering using a means test, because there are so many parents who can in fact afford a laptop. So it shouldn't be as it was before, where once you were at that place as a student, you were actually automatically entitled to it. So that there are that kind of creativity. Let's take the issue of the issue of wage increase. We know that was a big one that was identified, right? A huge one in terms of the potential impact that it could have on the treasury. If we all agree that people in this country, especially middle class, deserve a living wage, then we can agree that what has been on offer makes it difficult for people to make ends meet, and more is required. Let's take the back pay, for example. Instead of attempting to give all of that in cash, the government could consider paying the back pay, which is the largest chunk of that particular, and I'm not committing myself to any percentage, because I think the negotiation process must take its course. I think issues such as productivity, etc., should weigh into that whole process. But the back pay element of it could be paid in the form of bonds, long-term bonds. And if individuals want the cash immediately, they could sell it on the secondary market. We could use a mechanism of land for as a means of settling the outstanding amount. So it reduces the burden, the recurrent burden on the state. If we use an option of giving land, for example, and again, all of these things have to be thought through very carefully, because you don't want a situation where somebody takes the land and then they're able to just sell it immediately and you defeat the whole purpose. So you have to very clearly think through, how much, where it's going to be located, what is the purpose, what people can do with it. Because if you do something like that, you have a spillover positive effect, because the construction of homes will stimulate that element of the sector. It will have more money circulated in the economy without burdening the state.
But how is that? If I can interrupt you though, how is that going to work though? Because you have the trade union element and several huge trade unions who supported the UNC in this election, and of course they're going to be looking for goodies. But
I think I've just offered a real solution where you can offer.
Yeah, but some of them, they're going to actually want the money.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's easy to get the money, because all you do is you sell, if it's bonds, for example, you sell the bonds on the secondary markets if you need your money immediately. But I think it will all be down to the way in which the government communicates with people. Because I don't think anybody in this country, workers particularly, would want a situation where the government crashes because it simply doesn't have the money to be able to continue. So it is all about the same way that the government was successful in terms of its pre-election messaging, including people in the process, is, I think, the key to it. And so that's just two suggestions. And then on the other hand, I want to say categorically, prioritizing new revenue sources is key. And while we are an energy-based industry, and we must certainly allocate significant time and intellectual capacity to finding a solution, to finding new sources of gas so that we can ensure that that sector continues, I believe a greater amount of emphasis needs to be placed on the non-energy sector. And within there, we have low-hanging fruits. We don't have we don't have any sector that can replace the energy sector in terms of the kind of revenue it has generated. But certainly in terms of employment generation is a critical challenge that this economy faces, especially amongst young people. And we have low-hanging fruits. We have low-hanging fruits in manufacturing. The manufacturing sector continues to face a shortage of critical human capital that the education system is not producing for them. But again, it comes down to bringing the parties together, identifying what the needs are going forward in order to stimulate growth in the shortest possible time, linking to education, linking to all of these things so that that can start to happen. Growth in the manufacturing sector, the non-energy manufacturing sector, removing the petrochemical industry, redounds to the benefit of increasing the revenue intake through taxes to the government. It increases employment. Over the last 10 years, we saw quite a significant fall in employment in the manufacturing sector. And this is something that we need to reverse. Tourism is another low-hanging fruit. And in Trinidad, we have not paid sufficient emphasis on it. There is significant growth in tourism in all of the neighboring islands. In fact, the Caribbean is leading the world in terms of growth with respect to tourism. There's no foreign exchange challenges in these islands. In fact, people will refuse if you go and you go into a taxi and you have a US $100 bill and there's a slight tear in it. The taxi driver will tell you, no, I don't want it. Because he doesn't have a problem going into the bank and accessing foreign exchange. All of that to say, this is a sector that can bring in foreign exchange and that can address the lower levels of demand that we have, because that foreign exchange immediately circulates from the taxi driver who picks up the tourists at the airport to the tour operators, to the hotels, to the Airbnbs, etc. And that allows, a significant traction there. It also allows for the generation of employment. Within there are so many subsets that we have been talking about. Government after government have been talking about new growth sectors within tourism, and well over 30 years, we have not done enough in order to push the bar with respect to them. The yachting sector is a no-brainer. We can get that going so very quickly. The infrastructure is in place, the history is in place, the expertise is in place. It requires, for example, a simple act by a new government to reduce the number of forms it takes a yacht to fill in, which is currently at 15, to one harmonized form, which exists in all of the islands around us. Why is it we can't simply do something as simple as that? A simple stroke of a pen mandating public servants. And I want to therefore come back and say the importance, I think great effort needs to be placed in educating the public service in terms of how important it is to the issue of diversification and growth, etc. Let's take customs, for example, closing during a lunchtime, not prioritizing in terms of clearing goods and services, etc., at a very fast rate. I'm saying that we have as a country to realize that we're all in this together. And to me, the best way that this new government can succeed is if it ensures it doesn't repeat the mistakes of so many governments by, once it gets into office, disconnecting from the people. Because let me tell you, people have these solutions. My simple Facebook post on the issue of laptops, and teachers, like I say, have waded into it and offered such, because they are the ones who are there operating it. I mean, I will tell you as a parent, when my daughter benefited from getting that free laptop, because of the weight of it, because of the size of it, it wasn't easy for her to be able to use it. I then had to invest and buy her one that was a lot more user-friendly. The cost that I'm aware of that the state paid for those laptops through the procurement process that was used cost us so much more than it needs to cost us. Because we all know $300-400 US can get us a simple laptop that a student at high school level will require. We don't need to spend $1,000. And more than that, the responsibility of care. This is an opportunity for us to really reshape how we do things. So the responsibility of the student, of the parent, of the teachers, and ensuring that we do it in a way that responsibility to ensure that this piece of equipment is used and managed in a way that can ensure longevity and use the purpose. I mean, we can't say, or we can't throw our hands up in the air and say, you know what, gosh, whatever, we get them a laptop, they go hack into it and they will do whatever. It is all about how we manage processes.
I agree with you there. I agree with you there that it'll be a process of how you manage stuff. But there are several other things that are happening simultaneously to what those promises that they're making. They're also looking at measures to reduce revenue, because you're saying they have said on the platform that they're taking away property tax, which is a reduction in your accessible revenue.
Right.
They're taking off the online tax,
right.
the removal of the online tax, which is also going to take down whatever revenue you're getting from that.
Sure.
But you're also suggesting things that increase revenue.
Correct.
You're talking about Petrotrin.
Yes.
Restarting Petrotrin, even though the outgoing government would have some sort of agreement with a Nigerian firm. I mean, it's not absolutely clear and transparent at this point what the level of the contractual relationship is or was, whether they are, as the new government, forced to continue with that, even though they've said they're not going to.
Sure.
Does it make economic sense? This is what gets me sometimes with governments and political platforms. You don't know if it makes economic sense or not to say we are going to end it, because it may cost us more from whatever contractual relationships we already entered into as a state.
Sure.
So there is a lot to unpack.
Absolutely.
In terms of expenditure, the reduction of revenue, the increase in spending, and so it's a mosaic of all sorts of things happening.
So let's take the property tax, for example. Until last year, we were functioning quite a number of years without the property. Now, I'm on record. I'm somebody who supports property tax. I never supported, I never agreed with the mechanism that was used, because I think it's flawed. It's extremely flawed. It continues to be extremely flawed. The mechanism that was used in order to calculate the property tax. And we saw it reflected in when people received their valuations. Some were ridiculously high, some was, ridiculously low, and government itself had to respond to that, to its failed process by reducing the percentage from 3% to 2%. When people queried it, they send you back on you. So it is rife with challenges. But the point I'm making is that we did function without it. It was only in last year that it was reintroduced. So the extent to which that is going to create such a burden, if you are able to balance that against new sources of revenue, it's left to be seen. I mean, I don't have the numbers. I can't pull it out of my head. Everything requires a lot of analysis. Petrotrin, I think we can all agree that you closed it down, but it should have been reopened in quick time, because there's not only the issue of finding a new investor, but the issue of the length of time that this plant has remained not operational. Yeah. Yes, and the extent to which, we've heard so much about pilferage, persons just coming and stealing off things. We don't know what the state of affairs with respect to that plant is. I think a little bit of time needs to be allocated to that, in terms of being very clear in terms of what the approach is to Petrotrin, because we don't want a situation where we give it to some private investor who is really just coming there. We saw it, I think, with the Nikwan project, where it was privatized to really no good end at the end of the day. And we have to make sure that when we are doing this process, that at the end of the day, we're very clear that it is going to redound to potentially increase foreign exchange inflows into the country, a balancing the act, because we are going to have to be importing the crude in order to process. We have to ensure that we're getting the crude from the cheapest possible sources. We need to know that we have markets to export the refined product. All of these things we need to make sure. And I don't think enough of that was put into the public domain. And I am trusting that this new government is going to do things a little differently. At this point in time, that's all we can do, because we have to give the benefit of the doubt, and we have to give the new government a little bit of time and space to be able to to start to manage the economy and see how they're doing it going forward.
I wanted to bring up the issue of Dr. Krishna Prasad.
Agriculture, I mean, we didn't even mention agriculture and agro-processing in terms of its capacity, because we're talking, I mean, I'm really big on the issue of us finding new sources of revenue, of foreign exchange, of employment generation. But agriculture is such a low-hanging fruit in terms of linking that to the reduction in the use of foreign exchange. We currently import $1 billion in food. Let us in this new dispensation seriously reprioritize agriculture and agro-processing and set some targets in terms of impacting the use of foreign exchange, and that will allow us to free up foreign exchange to other uses. So,
but Dr. Sagewan, we didn't just get to 1 billion and plus in terms of importing food stuff just like that. It has been a consistent neglect of several governments in terms of that sector. So what's going to be different under this reiteration of the UNC? Why did you?
I can't answer that, and you can't answer that. But what I could do as an economist is say to the government, this is a no-brainer. It is an absolute, because listen to me, we have the local production of items at very small scale. Things like fresh mushrooms, for example, fresh lettuce, things like that are coming onto our shelves and that are competing quite successfully with the imported products. And therefore, we have to find creative ways to give these nuggets of initiatives that are taking place, through the private sector of their own volition. We have to find creative ways to support them. We need to look at a more regional approach to satisfying our food needs than simply bringing it from the external sources. The whole world is moving, globalization as we know it is now slowly becoming a thing of the past. And the whole notion of strengthening regionalism and strengthening interlinkages with countries closer to you are becoming stronger and stronger. We have failed in this part of the world as CARICOM. We have so failed ourselves and our consumers to maximize the potential that is existing within CARICOM to become more self-sufficient in the production of food. Yeah. So I feel quite excited, I have to tell you, Richard, in this moment, because I felt very strongly that the past government was going down a slippery slope when it came to this economy. I was very verbal on that, very, very verbal, and I feel that what happened needed to happen. We needed to have new hands on the stack of cards. We needed to have new hands on deck. Of course, new hands in the sense of managing it, but there are many hands that were there that are good ones, and I am hopeful that this government will ensure that where there are and were good people, that we're not just going to move them. But it gives us an opportunity to recalibrate, to reset, to move forward, and I am really, in this moment, feeling extremely positive that is what we are going to see happen. I obviously will be one of the first people to say, to say loudly, listen, we're not doing it right if we move down that road. But I am hopeful in this moment.
In terms of the energy sector, I know recently, I think earlier in this week, Dr. Krishna Prasad, who's an energy expert, had indicated that Trinidad and Tobago needs the, I'm paraphrasing a little dramatically. So let me put that out there, that we need to forget Venezuela and concentrate maybe on getting oil and gas from Ghana and Suriname, and using the pipelines and stuff to bypass Venezuelan territory and policy and all of the policy confusion with regard to the U.S. and Venezuela. I've seen confusion, but you know what I mean.
I know.
But that we should direct our sights on Ghana and Suriname in terms of their gas, because they have substantial gas finds and it needs to be processed. Yes. And that's where we should be aiming our guns. What is your opinion on that?
I'm in total agreement. In this moment in history, we have to read the room. And if we read the room, then it is very clear that it could be years before we could have access to to doing business with Venezuela. I mean, I'm not at all dismissing Dragon and what it could have done for us. You know that. I mean, I was always saying, please, I mean, I pray, you know, that Dragon could happen. But I think it is very clear that the current U.S. administration is not going to allow that to happen. That being said, it could happen tomorrow if things turn out differently. Let's say for some reason, Maduro gets up tomorrow morning and say, you know what, I have enough of this. You know what, I'm just giving in. Things could be different. But that's outside of our control. And we cannot continue to look there in a place where there's so much variables that are outside our control. I mean, we see where where Jack Barrett has actually said already, and he's already putting it out there, the possibility of Guyana's gas coming to Trinidad. Why would we want to not explore that? We've always had a very long-standing, very positive relationship with Guyana. We know the United States government is loving Guyana. You know, we are here well-positioned to be able to do that. So absolutely, let us go that route, but simultaneously, let us further incentivize exploration within our own jurisdiction so that we have two simultaneous plans operating that can continue to shore up the oil and gas sector. I don't want to say that as much as we are going to want to extend the life as much as we can for our fossil fuel-based energy, we also need to aggressively and simultaneously start to move our energy sector towards the renewable area. And we need to do it very aggressively. We should have done it within the last year. We should have been so far advanced in terms of transitioning our energy sector towards renewable energy. We cannot ignore the CBAM threat that is really upon us. And for those of you who don't know that is a border tax, a carbon border tax that developed countries are imposing on the importation of goods that are heavy users of fossil fuel energy in their production process. Europe is quite far advanced, and before the Trump administration, the United States was considering a CBAM. Canada was considering a CBAM. This is major markets for our exports, and therefore we have to be very realistic to that. We have the human capital, you know, opportunities, gentlemen. From where I said are so tremendous. We have deep expertise in terms of the energy industry that's easily transferable towards the towards the renewable stream. You know, we've been talking about green hydrogen, and many countries, China, case in point, is moving at an accelerated rate to green hydrogen. We've been talking about it for some years now, but we've not gone anywhere with respect to it. You know, solar, we may not be able to produce solar panels, but let us look at intensifying the use of solar panels for domestic use, etc., in strengthen the incentive structure to allow us.
What prevents us from doing? What prevents us from getting to that point? Because I know when Marvin Gonzalez was the public utilities minister, we brought that up with him several times because there's legislation that needs to be amended to allow it.
Correct.
Why is it taking so? Why is it taking so long?
We need stronger incentive because the cost is it's pretty high, the setup cost for, like, say, me, for example, or you, to invest in the solar panels for our homes, if you and I as individuals trying to get it. So we need stronger incentives there, fiscal tax incentives for us, allow us a tax credit, it allow us to write it off. Again, over time, I'm not suggesting you let me write it off in 1 year and therefore hinder your revenue stream. Let me write it off over a few years, allow me to have access to a very, very low interest rate that can allow me to be able to transition that. And then there's the legislative framework changes that are required that are necessary for allow us to sell the surplus into the grid. Because you know the way solar works, I will generate solar energy, but I might generate more than I need to run my household. I need to know there's a mechanism. Barbados is doing it. You know, Barbados is doing it quite comfortably. And we were the leaders in energy. What is wrong with us that we are not? Because, okay, I can tell you what's wrong with us. We still caught up in this love affair, in this banker we have for oil and gas. And we don't want to let go of it. But and I want to emphasize, while we must continue to push to keep that sector as long as we can, because we must. I mean, the kind of investment we have in there, we must. But let us get on with the business of responding to the way the world is changing. You know, what President Trump is doing with respect to tariffs, etc., is so changing the world. We have to be able to respond to these things because it is impacting our competitiveness out there. We have to have the intellectual capacity, that can allow us to be able to understand what's going on and make the requisite changes, to walk and hold the hands of our private sector in order to be able to do that. We need our private sector to move away from trading mostly to investing in greater value adding. And there are many places in the private sector that are willing. We need to support them to be able to have it done.
And I suppose the government will have to be the facilitator in terms of encouraging that kind of innovation and investment. I know we are just about to end the interview because it's just about on 8:30.
Sure.
And I know I gave you a limited time in terms of, I told you how long the interview would have been. But I just wanted to get your closing comments in terms of how optimistic are you that the considerable challenges facing the economy of Trinidad and Tobago and the decision makers, because it's something that crosses party lines ultimately, because it's about the future of Trinidad and Tobago in this geopolitical space. How optimistic are you that we'll be able to navigate it?
I think you can better ask me that question after we see the cabinet. I mean, I'm always honest. If nothing, I'm always honest, because to me, that is where it lies. The members of the next cabinet have to be really well chosen. You may have required loyalty in order to win the election, but having won the election, now you need governance, and it is not an OJT. It's not, by no means. We can't afford it. I'm really very clear about this, Richard. We can't afford it. We need experience. We need performance. We need the work ahead is really very, very hard work that is ahead. If we want to take this country to a different place, if we want to break the trajectory of where we have been heading and take it back into a pathway of success. So yes, ask me that then. I don't want to say though, in this moment, I'm very hopeful. Very hopeful, because we always have to be hopeful and optimistic, because if we lose that, then all of us will have to be boarding a plane to find a new place to live.
All right, Dr. Sagewan, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate the conversation, and of course we'll have you back from time to time to discuss what is happening under this new government.
Sure.
So thanks a lot. Of course, that was Dr. Indera Sagewan, economist, weighing in on the new government taking the reins and what the expectations are, how maybe they can get to some of the low-hanging fruit in terms of what they promised on the platform, and they promised a lot. So we'll see how all of that goes. Of course, she says she's curious to see what the cabinet is going to look like, and that's probably going to indicate the seriousness of the government in tackling those economic issues, if I'm reading what Dr. Sagewan says correctly. But this is where we end the breakfast show this morning. But before we go, remember to like and subscribe. It's important. Our goal is to get 100,000 subscribers. So like and subscribe our channel, especially on YouTube. As we move forward, of course, we'll be on tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. sharp. Just playing a couple of ads for you, and then I'll be right back.
RSRR Productions has done it again. Married and Mischievous was a riot at Sapa. Now we head to Cipriani College for 2 nights only. On Saturday the 3rd of May at 8:30 p.m. and Sunday the 4th at 6:30 p.m. Tickets available now at usual outlets and from Wednesday the 30th of April at Cipriani College box office. This play is strictly for adults. Married and Mischievous is an experience you'll never forget.
S&H Rum Box, 137 Western Main Road, St. James, for all your retail and wholesale needs for alcohol and non-alcoholic beverages. Call us at 686-0599 or visit us at 137 Western Main Road, St. James. S&H Rum Box, drinking out of the box.
Advertise with us on New Era TT Radio, the fastest growing streaming platform for talk in Trinidad and Tobago. Audio and video ads welcome. Elevate your brand with us. Connect with us at newerattradio@yahoo.com or call us at 299-5156. Now what are you waiting for?
All right, so this is where we wrap up the breakfast show this morning. Have a fantastic day, whatever you do. We'll speak to you bright and early tomorrow morning. And remember to smile and laugh. It's great for your health. Thank you to all our guests who came on this morning. Robert Le Hunte starting it off. Penelope Beckles-Robinson, the newly appointed leader of the opposition, choosing our show as the first show to do an interview. What more can I say? And of course, Dr. Indera Sagewan weighing in on the economics as the new cabinet is due to be sworn in today. So have a great day, whatever you do.
All right, folks, have an absolutely wonderful day too. Remember, one life, live it. I feel I might have to go back to remember to let go and let God. Yes, it comes out.
Let me say good morning to Junebug. Wendell, she says she's tuning in from Tallahassee.
Very nice.
In Florida. All right, so this is where we wrap it up. This has been The Breakfast Show on New Era TT Radio. Subscribe, like, and we'll see you tomorrow morning at 6.
God willing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.